Great. So who are we? We are the largest strategic advisory to the education sector globally. And when I say education sector, we serve the for-profit sector as well as the not-for-profit sector globally. And so as Esther already mentioned, we do about 150 to 180 projects in a year across 90 plus countries. Who do we work with? Our clients include operators, investors, as well as governments and foundations. So when we talk about operators, we are working with largest of the large operators in every segment of education, be it early years where we are talking about Bright Horizons, Busy Bees, KinderCare. All of them are our clients. Even their investors who have invested in them, large private equity funds, are our clients. On the K through 12 side, 7 of the 7 largest K through 12 companies, starting from Nord Anglia, GEMS, Cognita, Sebase, Dulwich, Bacon House, Meritas, all of them happen to be our client at CXO and board level. And if you move further into the value chain, where we have Laureate, the largest for-profit private education provider globally, is our client. And then even in other parts of education where we talk about ancillary education, English language training, vocational, the likes of Pearson, Wall Street, all of them happen to be our clients. So, and even in these are the list of some of our clients that you can see across the globe. Even on the technology space, publishers who are trying to digitize their content and move and ride the digital wave are our clients. And on the other side, on the higher ed side, where the market is more towards online enablers, whether we are talking about providers like 2U, Skillsoft, corporate e-learning, they happen to be our client. Why this brief introduction is useful today and relevant is because what I'm going to talk today and share with the distinguished audience here is a much more global perspective. And I'll try to do a contrast between what's happening in the developed world today as well as what is transpiring in the emerging markets. And this will be useful both for operators as well as investors who are looking to evaluate various businesses. So education technology, and irrespective of the kind of projects that we do, consulting engagement, education technology is a usual suspect, which almost always comes in every discussion we have with our client, irrespective of whether they operate in early years, K through 12, higher ed, or any part of the education, be it English language learning. So what has happened? Just a bit of a reflection in terms of we have been hearing EdTech for decades now, right? And it is changing shape and form as we go, right? So if you reflect 3 decades back, right? So there were 3 waves that we have seen in the world of education technology. Which are these waves? So we started with, and most of us would remember that, the first wave of EdTech really started with we getting free CD-ROMs on the back of the book, right? And that was the first wave of digital education that started. The second wave was the internet wave, right? Early in the 2000s when internet was on boom, and there was a talk about a lot of usage of internet in the education. Obviously, it faced challenges of low engagement and limited willingness to pay, right? What are we hearing now? So we are now hearing a lot about adaptive learning, right, in various forms, where can we replace the teacher or the person who is actually teaching with technology. So this is a bit of a reality check here, that despite the first 2 waves that we've faced and that we've seen, the classroom education has remained, right? That not to say that education technology does not have a future. It does have a future, and my talk is going to exactly focus on what exactly is working today and which type of models are scaling up more than others, right? So after looking at the waves and the 3 waves that we discussed, even every education company, when they think about education technology usage, they sort of tend to climb a similar usage curve, right? And when I say usage curve, they would start from an infrastructure focus, right, where they are busy having learning management systems, busy basic things like ERP into the institution, followed by digital content, where they will try and upload a lot of their content, convert it into digital, and go digital on the content side. They will move further into the value chain and start to blend the material, right? So this is where part of the classroom sessions start getting replaced by what we call as online mode or digital mode. And then finally, it's about the adaptive learning, where we are talking about the MOOCs of the world, and it has emerged in various other forms as well, where we are sort of trying to replace teachers as much as possible. Now, if you look at on this curve, right, so here we are seeing that the developed markets, the Western world is somewhere sitting on the cusp of blended learning to the adaptive learning, somewhere in between on this evolution curve, while emerging markets are right now mostly looking into digital content and then slightly taking away and moving their way up to the blended learning focus. So after looking at the lay of the land in terms of how it works when we talk about technology, the next thing that I'm going to share is that what are the demand side observations, right? So when I say demand side observations, we have few surveys, and we conduct tons and tons of surveys in a data-driven approach to bring in the right insights on the industry. So I will share some of the demand side observations. We have surveys of teachers, parents, and students. Then we'll get into this demand side observations on technology. What are the responses of supply side, right? And there we will look at which models have scaled and which have not scaled, and what challenges are they facing. And that way we will headway to this presentation. So on the demand side, right? And this is a survey of teachers, right? And what was asked to teachers was that, right? How do you expect the use of following types of resources to change over the next few years, right? So there was an overwhelming response of digital content, video, and digital content from textbook publishers, right? Both from internet as well as from publishers, to overwhelmingly increase, right? A vast majority of teachers do believe that we will use a lot more of digital resources in our teaching, right? The next question we asked the teachers that, okay, if that is the case, what will happen to the current teaching resources or the print that you are traditionally using? Again, overwhelmingly 60-70% of teachers across the groups did mention that the use of physical textbooks is likely to diminish as we go, right? So we are clearly seeing that from a demand side, and teachers in the K through 12 space are the biggest consumers of technology. They have a clear preference for technology, right? And this shows up in the market data, right? So this is the data of supplementary instructional material revenue in the US market, right? And we see that the green portion, which represents digital material, is gaining share of the overall market and gaining share away from the print materials, right? And this is happening specifically in the supplementary instructional material, because basal material is an industry that sort of remains insulated to technology and technology disruptions, because those textbooks are likely to be used, but the supplemental is facing a clear replacement when we talk about technology. All right, so with the teachers are done. Let's move to parents, right, and what they have to say. And here we conducted survey of about 5,000 to 7,000 parents across developing and developed markets. So we are talking about Brazil, China, India, Saudi Arabia, Middle East representation there, and also US, right? And the question is, what proportion of respondents want to increase the use of online learning or online technology in their learning, right? So we see that a large proportion of parents across emerging markets, right, anywhere from 75 to 80 to 90% of parents do want a higher proportion use of online resources in the learning of their child, right? And so which is interesting, which means that teachers are happy using technology, parents are happy using technology. The next big question is, are parents willing to replace it, right? So just to tease out this question, just to tease out this nuance, we asked the question in a slightly different manner, right? So we posed to them, what is the preference for a more than 20% online content in your total course curriculum, right? So the way this question is posed, this sort of gives the parents a feeling that the online content would replace what they are learning in classrooms, right? And you see that immediate effect that the preferences for online and preferences for the replacements start coming down, right? They're still high, but they start coming down. what does it say, right? Yes, parents are broadly okay using technology. Their preferences reduce as they see technology to be replacing what their kid is learning in the classroom, right? So they don't want to compromise on that front. Uh, but a clear message here is that the technology usage, there's no hindrance to technology usage as such, right? Uh, let's look at what has happened, right? Which type of models have actually scaled up, and what is the supply side response to what parents are saying and to what teachers are saying, right? So what you see on this chart are some of the providers, right? And these are the large providers of various forms of online or technology-enabled education, right? Khan Academy, a K-12 content provider, has users upwards of 10 million, right? We are talking about Duolingo, which is a language learning app, and that has quickly gained market of about 1 to 2 million users. Mega Study, which is a test prep provider and technology-enabled test prep provider in Korea, they have about 330,000 plus students. They use technology and digital. Beijing number 4, which is actually a unique model of a school putting up their curriculum online. And they have got 80,000 kids in a short span of time, right? Learn Now BBC, which is an English learning provider, English language learning provider, has achieved scale, right? So yes, because of the demand that we just saw, there has been a great amount of user acquisition or customer acquisition, as we say. What is challenging here for investors who are actually looking to make money out of education businesses is that a large part of these models, right, happen to be government funded. And what that means is that government is funding these providers, and there's no revenue coming from the direct user. So that's one challenge. And then the other challenge, which is also very interesting, is about retention. So retention, and this relates to my point on low engagement. So there's this interesting statistic about Khan Academy, right? What you see here is that average user who uses Khan Academy uses it for about 24 minutes in a month, right? And on an average, he or she is doing 2 to 3 visits in a month, right? What it means is that on an average, in every click or in every go, a user is on the platform for just south of 10 minutes, right? So what that reflects is that the engagement or the customer retention happens to be a problem. So first problem, monetization, which is a challenge that operators and investors need to think about. And second is about retention. And both these things mixed together, which is monetization and retention, make it for the business model to be challenging in terms of the student acquisition cost and in terms of the revenue model and ultimate profitability that one would expect out of these businesses. All right, so we've looked at the problem. Now what has really worked, and in what situation has online and technology worked? So given our work in emerging markets as well as in developed world, we've seen various models. I'm here presenting you few examples of those models and contexts in which an online or technology-enabled platforms in education have worked, right? The first one is a portal, online portal called TES Connect, and Rob Grimshaw, who is the CEO of TSL Education, is here with us in the conference today. So what this online portal does, and this dates back to Times Education Supplement, which was a jobs classified, and that used to come with the newspaper, right? And they converted it into a digital platform. The main hook was for teachers to be on this platform and seek for jobs, because it was the job listing platform to start with. And that sort of created the hook for teachers to join the platform. And today, they have millions of users on this platform. How about monetization? So some of these, what happens, the way it works is that it has become like a resources repository for teachers. And not just in US, UK, but in every emerging market as well. Like you choose any geography, you will see few resources of that country coming to help for our dear teacher who wants to enter the classroom and use some of these resources. The way it works is that users will typically pay a subscription fee, right? And they will then, some of them will start consuming the content. Some of them will also produce content, right? So teachers we know are passionate about the subjects that they specialize in. So they would actually create content and they would be the authors or publishers of some of the content. Depending on the demand for their content, they can charge it, and the modules can sell anywhere between 2 to 20 pounds, depending on the geography or the material that you're talking about. So from this, they will get some revenue, but they will share a significant portion of the revenue with the portal as well, right? So this is a unique case where, first of all, in the K through 12, this has worked because the use of technology has worked because here it basically addresses teachers and not directly students, right? Which is the primary audience for any technology consumption. And second, there's a crowdsourcing element, and there's a crowdsourcing element which reduces burden on the platform itself to regularly upload content and sort of either sell it or distribute it for free. So that's one unique situation. The other unique situation that I'm going to talk about is a model called Pamoja, and Pamoja is acquired. So just to for the investors' interest, TES and TSL Education was acquired by TPG Capital for about 400 million pounds in 2013. So that does reflect the monetization capability here. And on the GEMS, on the Pamoja model, which is now owned by one of the 3 largest K through 12 company, GEMS Education. Pamoja is an online IB curriculum platform, right? And why this works, right? The way it works is that there are schools which are offering IB curriculum, right? So in an IB system, educators will be very familiar with this. You have traditional IB courses: English, history, science, maths, foreign language, theory of knowledge, right? These are common subjects which every IB school can easily offer, right? It is really when it gets to courses like philosophy, film, psychology, that's when the target audience or the number of students start becoming thin for the school, right? Now IB schools, the main proposition is that they want to offer variety of courses, but then there is a business model challenge in terms of offering a course where you have only 1 or 2 students enrolled in the entire school. Right? So Pamoja helps solve that problem. What Pamoja has done is that it has reached out to all the IB curriculum schools, and it sort of acts as an aggregator for these tail-end courses. Right? So you will have one student in psychology from, let's say, Ireland, Kenya, South Africa, one from anywhere from Southeast Asia. These guys together would make a class, and that would run an IB class for that subject. Right? So in this case, online, or what technology has enabled is basically try to make sure that operators can get rid of the tail end, and this is what the value proposition that Pamoja is providing, that you don't lose the students. I take the students so that they get the offer, they get the options, but I will run the courses for you in an online format. And here we are talking about kids in the grade 11 and 11, 12. So online, and a complete online does not find a challenge as it would in an early year or in a K through 8 type of model, right? So it has helped schools expand their course offering and address also teacher recruiting issues for those tail-end type of courses. The third situation, right, for an online or a technology-enabled model to be working, right? All of us are familiar about the situation in China and Vietnam, right? So just to give you an example of China, we have about 250 million students in the school-going age, right? About 250 million. How many of them are getting an English-based education or anything that has to do something with English? Only 40,000. So 0.0002% of the total cohort is getting access to English education, right? Same is the case in Vietnam, right? So 20 million people, 12,000 in English-based, 0.005% penetration of English-based courses, right? So English is a huge problem. English is valued by employers. So what providers have done is that ELT or English language training is a huge market in China. And traditional classroom-based English language training would find limitation in terms of the prices that it charges, which is anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000, depending on the type of provider you're talking about. It has, in such a situation where access is an issue, right? There was an issue about affordability. Online has seen traction. Online education in English language learning has seen traction here. So what providers are doing in the online education space is that they are offering courses at about 1/4 the price that a traditional classroom-based provider will charge, and you also have these guys offering native English speakers on-demand courses, and they will do a 24 hours coverage in terms of teaching students. And one interesting observation here is that by providing access, what these online providers have done is that they have actually created a new market, right? By lowering the price point, by increasing access through online, they've created a new market. And what this survey of adult ELT provider and Chinese ELT providers in the K through 12 space suggest is that these are the users who only considered online overwhelmingly, right? 50% plus users did consider only online form, which means they were not traditionally going to the classroom based, but since the online option came through, they have started using it. So it's a clear case of a new market creation, which online models have done, right? So we spoke about 3 different examples. In the first one, targeting teachers, following crowdsourcing model. Second one, addressing the tail end of courses for a provider, classroom-based provider. And then third is a new market creation, which technology or EdTech has done to these various markets. And similarly, various models are evolving in various parts of the world. You have seen fully online virtual schools, online course providers, supplementary delivery. I'll skip this very briefly, but we are seeing emergence from free to freemium to paid models. And when we say freemium, there are these various contexts in which these different sort of model will work, right? So in free models, you're talking only about online advertisements as the main revenue. In freemium, you're giving away some content as free, but some part is being charged to the users who are more sophisticated, who are willing to pay for the value of the content that is being provided. And then finally, there are few niche models where the competition is less and someone who's offering a very niche product, that's when online or EdTech becomes completely on a paid basis, right? In the higher ed context, we are seeing a large market evolving in the online enabler space. And when I say online enabler, these are providers, 2U, BISC, Deltech, who are helping universities take their courses online. And in the higher ed context, this has become a huge market. We have recently seen 2U acquiring a provider in South Africa called Get Smarter. So these models are seeing wings even in emerging markets. One challenge that emerging markets do face is that online education, the acceptability is lower, and as a result, what you see is that the price points that you see for the online education are much lower than what you would see for a traditional degree-based education. So this is a challenge of online degrees in emerging markets. And another challenge, as we talked about, are acquisition costs and low customer retention, which make the business model a bit unsustainable. But what has worked, right, is that the blended learning models, and Esther also talked about them. Some of the investors in the previous session did touch upon that. What blended learning does is that it helps protect the pricing, right? There's a greater preference of users to do part of the courses in the classroom setting, and some of the basic courses, the 101 courses, they can do in their rooms, sitting in the hostels or sitting at their places at their conveniences. So blended learning models have evolved, and we do see that large part of universities globally have started offering this in various balances. So pure online may not be working, but digital and blended learning. And there are other examples of blended learning which have sort of worked in this space. So with that, I see Esther coming in here. So I will basically close here. But just to quickly summarize in 30 seconds, There's a preference among customers. A large models that we have seen evolving are supplementary, right? And supplementary providers have scaled up, right? There are providers in unique niches, as we discussed, which have also gained traction and have built their models. And emerging markets, especially blended learning, works better. So that's for today's talk. We have some material kept for you outside of this hall. So please feel free to grab them and get introduced to our practice. Thank you.